I graduated with honors, top of my class, and when I turned to the audience, I saw the seats I had reserved for my family. Empty. My heart sank. Then I spotted them, smiling, cheering, sitting right next to my sister in another section. She was live streaming the whole thing, of course. I wasn't even in the frame. That was the moment I realized I wasn't the main character in my own story. Not in their eyes. Maybe I never was. But this time, I wasn't going to stay quiet. You think a diploma changes everything? For me, it started something no one saw coming. The crowd roared, hats flew, and I stood under a rain of applause. My name had just been called. Emma Ray Walters, summa cum laude. I smiled, stepped forward, shook the dean's hand, and turned instinctively to find my family. 3 seats in row D, section B. I had marked them with printed name cards the day before. But those seats were empty. My heart skipped. I scanned the rows, squinting into the blur of color and clapping hands. Then, there they were. Mom, Dad, and Sophia. Not in section B. They were in section A, far left, right next to the camera pit, right next to my sister's ring light. Sophia was holding her phone up, grinning into it. She had her perfect graduation makeup on, even though she wasn't the one graduating. Mom was leaning into her, waving. Dad clapped with a wide smile. And not once did their eyes meet mine. I took one more step forward, then hesitated. The camera shutter clicked beside me, freezing my stunned expression in front of a sea of beaming strangers. I forced a smile, a practiced one. The same one I'd worn at piano recitals, spelling bees, honor roll banquets. The smile I wore when I pretended it didn't sting. Back in my seat, I scrolled through Sophia's live. Her caption read, "So proud of my baby sis graduating today." But the entire video was a selfie stream of her commentary, her outfit, her angles. I was in the background once, out of focus, a blur walking by. I closed the app. My throat tightened. Not from anger, not yet, just confusion. A sinking suspicion that maybe they hadn't meant to hurt me. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe Section A had better lighting for Sophia's stream. Maybe they didn't see the signs I taped. Flashback. I was 8. It was my birthday. Mom brought out the cake, smiling, holding it carefully, as everyone sang. I remember the balloons, the way my dress had sequins I picked out myself. But when the cake landed on the table, I stared. "Happy birthday, Sophie." I looked at Mom. She laughed. "Same difference," she said. "Don't be so sensitive, Emma. You know she loves birthdays more than you." Everyone chuckled. I didn't. Back in the dorm, I dropped my gown over the chair and opened my phone. I had texted Mom 4 times the week before graduation, sent a map of the seating chart, a reminder, a photo of the reserved seats with Mom and Dad signs. None of them had been read. I clicked on our family group chat, silent since Easter. But there was a private message between Sophia and Mom. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. "Soph, she wants us to sit in the back, LOL," Mom wrote. Sophia replied, "She's trying to control the narrative again. Just don't give her the power. We'll sit where it looks best for my stream. Don't worry." The timestamp was the night before graduation. My fingers froze. A strange cold settled into my chest. Not like sadness, not rage. Just the moment you realize someone you love has drawn a line, and you're on the other side of it. Another flashback. Middle school. I'd won 2nd place in the regional science fair. Sophia had a minor role in a school play the same week. That night, Mom praised her for being confident on stage. When I brought up my project, she said, "Not everyone wants to hear about bacteria, sweetheart." Later, I cried into my pillow, The room was dark. My own voice was the only sound. No footsteps outside my door. No knock. No, "Are you okay?" I was used to it. Tonight I opened my drawer and pulled out my corkboard. It held photos. A family trip to Yosemite. A Halloween where we all dressed as Disney characters. The Christmas I got my first laptop. I stared at them, wondering if I had ever belonged in those moments. I pulled each pin, one by one, slowly. Not out of anger, out of clarity. Each photo dropped like a leaf falling from a tree that had never been mine. I stared at the empty board, feeling lighter and lonelier, all at once. If you've ever sat in a crowded room and still felt invisible, you'll understand. If you've ever worked for applause that never came. Not because you weren't good enough, but because someone else always mattered more. You'll understand. I left the board bare. For now. 2 weeks after graduation, I received an envelope in the mail. A certificate from the university, acknowledging my academic distinction and leadership award. I snapped a photo, attached it to a message, and sent it to my mum. Her reply came 10 hours later. "Your sister got one too, remember?" That was it. No, congrats. No, we're proud. Just a casual reminder that whatever I'd done, Sophia had done first. I stared at the message for a while, then deleted it. That night, I opened my laptop and started a new blog. No names, no faces, just truth. I titled the first post, "The Graduation That Didn't Belong to Me." Underneath, I wrote about the moment I realized I wasn't just overlooked. I was edited out. I signed it anonymously, tagged it, "Yah, Invisible Daughter," and published. By morning, a few dozen people had liked it, then 100, then more. I wrote again. About the birthday cake with the wrong name. About science fairs ignored. About clapping for everyone else while waiting for one person to look at me. Each post was like a breath I had held for years. And then, someone I hadn't expected knocked on my digital door. "You wrote this, didn't you?" It was Harper, my roommate from sophomore year. She'd always been sharp, quiet, and noticed things others missed. I didn't lie. She tilted her head, studying me. "You're still living for their approval, you know. Even this blog, it's still about them." That cut deeper than I expected. She wasn't wrong. Later that evening, I walked down to the pier behind my apartment. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that made you hear your own heartbeat. I sat at the edge, legs dangling above the still water, and just breathed. No tears, no rage, just silence. For the first time in weeks, I didn't scroll. I didn't refresh the blog stats. I didn't think about Sophia's livestream or my mother's silence. I simply existed. That stillness didn't last long. The next morning, I opened the blog and saw a new comment. "I know that sister. She used to bully girls in middle school for being too, weird. Sophia, right?" I stared at the comment. For a second, I hovered over delete, but then I let it stay. It wasn't just my story anymore. Something shifted after that. Not overnight, but enough to keep me going. Then the dreams started. Not nightmares, exactly. Just loops. I'd be at graduation again, but this time, I'd walk across the stage and turn to see rows and rows of strangers. No one clapping. No one waiting. Just Sophia, in slow motion, turning her phone camera away. I'd wake up sweating, my sheets tangled, my mind foggy. One morning, after barely 2 hours of sleep, I got an email from the university. An invitation-only ceremony next month, honoring top students in each department. "Family participation encouraged," it said. "Please submit up to 3 names for special seating." I closed the message without responding. For 3 days it sat in my inbox, unread. On the fourth day, I clicked it, stared at the blinking cursor in the name fields, and left them blank. Something inside me whispered, they wouldn't come anyway. Or worse, they would, and sit with someone else. That evening, I collapsed at my desk, my body heavy, head pounding, the blog still open in another tab, new notifications waiting. But I couldn't bring myself to write. I whispered into the empty room, maybe I'm just not someone people love. Saying it out loud made it worse. The next day, I checked the blog. It had been shared on Reddit, under the Toxic Families subreddit. The title, she graduated with honors, but her parents sat with her sister instead. There were hundreds of upvotes, dozens of comments, people thanking me for writing what they couldn't say. But the most jarring part? Someone messaged me privately. Your story made me call my daughter today. We haven't spoken in 6 years. Thank you. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Maybe I wasn't invisible after all. Maybe this pain had a purpose. But something told me. This was just the beginning. My first podcast aired on a Wednesday. I didn't speak in my own voice. I'd run it through a filter. Slightly lower pitch, softened vowels. Enough to protect myself. The episode was called The Child They Forgot Was There. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. I described the empty chair with a name tag, the birthday cake with someone else's name, the applause that never found me. I said, this is not about revenge. It's about remembering who you were before they told you you didn't matter. When I logged off, I sat in silence, wondering if I'd gone too far, wondering if anyone would even care. The next day, I received a message from a girl in my statistics class. We'd only ever exchanged nods. Was that your voice on the podcast? She asked. I froze. Maybe. I typed back. She replied instantly. My mom cried when she heard it. She called me for the first time in 2 months. She said, I didn't know you felt like that. Thank you. My fingers hovered above the keyboard, unsure how to respond to something so personal, so heavy. I simply sent a heart emoji. It felt insufficient. A week later, another message arrived, this one from a throwaway email. Hey, I really love your podcast. Just curious. Are you the girl who got top honors in English Lit this year? Just sounds like something she'd say. There was no name, but I knew. The writing style, the passive-aggressive tone, the obsession with recognition masked as casual interest. Sophia. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That weekend, I opened my old keyboard, the one I'd dragged from dorm to dorm, never really using. I played a piece I'd taught myself when I was 12, Debussy's Clair de Lune. Back then, I'd begged to perform it at the school talent show. I played my heart out, only to hear Mom whisper to a neighbor. Sophia would have added more flair. This time, no one was watching. No one needed to. I played for myself, for the girl who used to sit in silence, waiting to be noticed. The next day, an email arrived from a student psychology organization. They'd heard my podcast. They wanted me to be a speaker for their spring event, Voices Unheard. You don't have to show your face, they wrote. We just want your truth. I stared at the message, heart pounding. Maybe I wasn't just shouting into the void anymore. That same week, I moved out of my shared apartment and into a small loft above a gallery downtown. My new roommate, Lila, was a painter who wore overalls smeared with color and didn't ask about family. When I told her I wrote, she said, Cool. I don't read much, but I like stories. She didn't ask if I was close to my parents. She didn't ask if I had siblings. That silence was the kindest thing anyone had given me in years. For the first time, I walked through a front door and didn't brace myself for questions I didn't want to answer. Then, one afternoon, Sophia posted something on her Instagram story. Amazing how some people use family trauma to build a fan base. But hey, fake pain gets real clicks. She didn't tag anyone. She didn't need to. Her followers flooded the comments with laughing emojis. I sat there staring at my screen. My fingers didn't tremble. My heart didn't race. Instead, I opened my blog and wrote a new entry. I used to think visibility was about revenge. But it's not. When you've lived as someone's shadow, stepping into the light isn't vengeance. It's survival. It's remembering that your story matters, even if they never clap for it. I didn't name her. I didn't have to. The post exploded. People shared it across platforms. Thousands of likes. Dozens of messages from strangers who said, This is what I needed to hear. Someone even wrote, "Your words made me cancel dinner with my narcissistic sister. Thank you for the courage." The next day, I received an email from a senior editor at The Collective, a digital magazine focused on identity and healing. "We'd love for you to write a piece," they said. "This time, under your real name, if you're ready." I stared at that line for a long time. If you're ready. I wasn't sure, but I was tired of hiding. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to be seen. The call came on a Sunday evening. No warning. Just a video ring from the family group chat I thought had long been abandoned. For a second, I hesitated. Then I answered. My mother's face filled the screen, red-eyed, breath shaky. "Why?" she snapped. "Why would you embarrass us like this? What have we ever done to you that you'd air our family like dirty laundry?" My father was there too, seated behind her, lips pressed into a thin, unmoving line. He said nothing, as always. And Sophia. She sat with perfect posture, arms crossed. "You're getting off on this, aren't you? Being the victim. People feel sorry for you, so now you're famous." Famous? That word felt like acid. "I didn't write for fame," I said quietly. "I wrote because it was the only way I could breathe." Mom let out a dry laugh. "You always make things so dramatic. We sat with your sister because she invited us. You didn't even come say hi." I blinked, trying to process the logic. "I gave you assigned seats. I sent you reminders. I made sure you had a spot with my name on it." Sophia rolled her eyes. "God, Emma, you act like we murdered someone. It was a graduation, not a funeral." That was when I said it, the question I had rehearsed 100 times. "Then why did you go to my graduation and sit somewhere else?" Silence. Thick, cold, suffocating silence. No one moved. No one answered. I watched the screen. 3 people, all tied to my blood, all speechless at a question that shouldn't have been so hard to answer. I ended the call. My hands were trembling as I closed the laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A message from Dad. "Don't call again. You're making your mother sick." I stared at those words until they blurred, until they became meaningless shapes on a screen. And then, I turned off my phone. The podcast went quiet. No new episodes, no blog posts, no responses, just silence. 2 weeks passed, my inbox filled with messages. "Are you okay? When's the next episode? Your voice helped me. Please don't disappear." But I felt empty, like whatever courage I had built was gone, like I had stepped too far, and there was no way back. Then one morning, I found a note taped to my bedroom door. Lila's handwriting, messy but sincere. You reminded us we weren't broken for being hurt. Don't let them take that from you. Come back when you're ready. We'll be waiting." I held the note like a lifeline. Maybe I hadn't just spoken for myself. Maybe I had created something that mattered. That night, I lit a candle, opened my laptop, and played the last podcast I had recorded but never uploaded. My voice, shaky but strong, filled the room. I used to think family meant the people who raised you. But maybe family is the ones who show up, even when it's hard, even when you're not easy to love. I clicked publish. It was the most downloaded episode I'd ever released. A week later, an email arrived from the university. I'd been selected to give the student speech at the graduation ceremony for the incoming class. Not because of grades, not because of test scores, because someone had nominated me, because students had written, in saying my podcast helped them stay enrolled, helped them ask for help, helped them believe their pain was valid. My hands shook as I read the email again, and then I saw the last line. "Please submit names for 2 reserved seats for guests of honor." I stared at the form. Then I printed it, folded it neatly, and placed it on my desk. That night I sat alone in the living room. No music, no lights. Just me, and 2 avec cardstock tickets in my hand. I held them for a while, remembering the day I printed 3 for myself. How carefully I had labeled each one. How they had sat untouched, unnoticed. This time, I didn't label them. I didn't send them. I tore them in half. The sound echoed in the quiet, and for the first time, it didn't hurt. The therapy room smelled like lavender and old books. There was a small water feature in the corner, bubbling softly. It was the first space I had entered in months that didn't expect anything from me. My therapist was a woman in her 50s named Grace. She wore thick-rimmed glasses and didn't take notes while I spoke. She just listened, really listened. On our 3rd session, she said something that stayed with me. Emotional neglect is like growing up in a house with invisible walls. No bruises, no yelling, just silence where love should have been. I let that sink in. Because it was true. I had spent years trying to name my hurt, trying to justify it to myself. Because no one hit me, no one screamed. But no one saw me either. And that left wounds too. Grace asked me to bring in old letters, photos, anything from childhood. I brought a shoebox. Inside were birthday cards with generic messages, school awards with bent corners, Polaroids where I was always standing on the edge of the frame. I laid them on the table like evidence. We went through each item and I labeled them, not with dates, but with emotions. This one, hopeful. That one, invisible. The torn science fair ribbon, ashamed. It was strange, attaching words to moments that had always felt blurry. And yet, something about it made me feel less crazy, like I was finally allowed to name what had hurt me, even if no one else ever acknowledged it. That weekend I did something small, something that felt ridiculous and brave. I bought myself a birthday cake. Just me. No guests, no candles. Chocolate with cream frosting. I had them write, "Emma, you matter," on top in messy blue icing. I sat in the kitchen with the lights low, a single fork in hand, and I ate a slice of that cake like it was sacred. For the first time, I didn't share. I didn't apologize for celebrating. I didn't feel guilty for taking up space. The podcast returned the following week. My voice was clearer now. I didn't use the filter. This episode is called I Forgive But I Don't Forget, because healing doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It means remembering without being destroyed. People messaged in droves. Some shared their own stories. Others just said thank you. But the most surprising message came from a professor at a community college in Oregon. I teach a class on family systems, she wrote. Would you come speak to my students? I said yes. Then came another invitation, and another. Soon I was on a train with a backpack full of notes and a heart that finally beat with purpose. At every stop, I met people who carried the same silence I once did. Students who had hidden their report cards, their tears, their truths. In one auditorium, a girl stood up and said, "Your podcast made me realize I didn't deserve the way I was raised." In another, a boy whispered, "I used to think I was broken, but maybe I was just ignored." Their voices cracked. Mine did too. I wanted to do more. So I started a scholarship fund, small, humble, for students who lacked emotional support at home. I called it The Unseen Light. Each application asked one question. What do you wish someone had said to you growing up? The answers made me cry. They were all versions of the same thing. I see you. I believe in you. You matter. Then, one rainy Thursday, an email appeared in my inbox. Subject line, "From Mom." I stared at it for a long time before opening it. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't elegant. But it was honest. She wrote about her own childhood, about how she was raised not to speak, not to cry, not to take up too much space. She said she didn't know how to love out loud, that Sophia made it easy because she demanded attention. I made it hard because I never asked. She said she was sorry. She said she didn't know how to fix it, but she wanted to try. I read the email 3 times. Then I closed my laptop, stood by the window, and listened to the rain. I didn't cry. I didn't feel anger. I just felt still. Like maybe this wasn't closure, but maybe it was a door cracking open. That night, I wrote back, "Thank you for your message. I'm not ready yet, but I'm glad you started. I hope one day we can meet where the silence ends." Then I hit send. It didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the beginning of a different story. The restaurant was quiet, the kind with soft lighting and a menu that hadn't changed in years. I picked the booth in the back, the one we used to sit in when I was little, where the window caught the morning sun just right. I got there early, 10 minutes before noon. I didn't expect her to be early, too. But when I looked up, she was already walking through the door. My mother looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I just saw her differently now. Less like a force, more like a person. She slid into the booth across from me. We both kept our hands in our laps. 10 minutes passed without a single word. The server brought water. I thanked her. My mother just nodded. I watched her twist the corner of her napkin, eyes fixed on the salt shaker. Then she spoke. "When you were 7, she began, voice soft, "you got sick, just a cold. But you stayed in bed for 3 days. I remember because you didn't ask for anything. No tea, no books, no cartoons. You just laid there, quiet. I kept thinking, she's tough. She doesn't need much." She looked up. I told myself that so many times. You were the quiet one, the strong one, the one who could handle being overlooked because you didn't complain. I swallowed hard. The room felt too still. "I didn't realize," she continued, "that silence can be screaming, that a child being easy doesn't mean they don't need love. I thought I was raising you to be strong, but I wasn't raising you at all. I was neglecting you, and I didn't see it." Her voice broke. "I thought I was being fair, but I wasn't. I was just feeding the loudest voice in the room." I nodded, but I couldn't speak yet. Then she said the one thing I hadn't realized I'd been waiting for. "You didn't need to be strong, Emma. You needed to be loved." I'm sorry I didn't understand that. I looked at her. Really looked. This wasn't the woman who had dismissed my texts or waved me off during milestones. This was someone trying late, but trying honestly. And something in me cracked, not from pain, from release. I cried, right there in that booth, with the smell of pancakes in the air and sunlight on my hands. She didn't reach over. She didn't apologize again. She just sat with me. And for once, the silence wasn't empty. We talked, not about everything, not about Sophia, not yet, but about me, about how I'd been, what I'd written, what I hoped for. And when we finished our meal, she didn't say, "Let's do this again." She said, "Let me know when you're ready." And that was enough. Weeks passed. Life moved. The book I'd been working on quietly, draft after draft, scribbled notes, voice memos, was finally ready. I titled it, "The Graduation I Deserved." It wasn't a memoir exactly. It was part story, part reflection, part letter to anyone who'd ever felt invisible. The launch was small, a cozy bookstore downtown. Friends, strangers, students I'd met along the way. My therapist was there. So was Lila, holding her sketchbook instead of flowers. I stood at the front, holding the first copy. "I want to read you the final page," I said. The room fell silent. I flipped to the last line, my voice steady. "I don't blame them for sitting in the wrong section. I've just learned not to let my heart sit in the wrong place anymore." There was a pause, then applause. Not thunderous, not wild, but real. Afterward, people came up to hug me. Some cried. Some said thank you. Some just smiled. And then, as the crowd thinned, I saw her, Sophia, standing near the back. She didn't move forward, didn't wave. She stood with her arms crossed, expression unreadable. But she was there. I didn't go to her. I didn't need to. For the first time, this was my moment, and I didn't need it validated. Later, as I packed up, someone asked me, "Do you think your family finally sees you now?" I smiled. "I don't know, but I finally see me, and that's enough." I stepped outside into the cool evening air, the city lights flickering like little yeses from the universe. Somewhere behind me, a story was ending, but ahead, another was just beginning. And this time, I was choosing where to stand.